Welcome to the Depressy Podcast.
I'm Missy,
And I'm Allie,
and we're sisters
in the mental health field
talking about all things stressy.
and depressy. And before we get started, of course, we want to say that this disclaimer, this is not therapeutic advice. We are not professionals yet. Neither of
And
us
even
have
then,
our
this
degrees.
is, yeah,
We don't know you. We are not taking care of you. So please consult your own doctors and a therapist to make decisions for you.
yeah.
Welcome to episode 2. Thank you for sticking around with us. We're in a new location. We're at my parents' house. We're adaptable. We can set up
We're
our little
flexible.
ring light everywhere,
Yes, we can.
including the attic, with this only white canvas that we could find in our whole house
Yes.
that doesn't just have a window on it. So you're getting closet. It's the best we can do. But what are we talking about this week, Missy?
Okay, so last week we talked a lot about work and kind of what we do, psychology and psychiatry.
Psychiatry, did you get the difference? I don't know if you did because there was a lot of rambling.
There was. This week we're talking more about our personal lives. So,
Wow.
Allie, so I'm married and you are engaged.
You might have seen the ring last time. I really don't know if I ever held up my hand. But yes, I am engaged. I got engaged in November. It is currently end of May. It's like Memorial Day
Yes.
weekend as we're filming this. I don't know how many months that is. Like 6 months?
That feels right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting married next April. So now under a year away.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're both in our 20s.
Yes, we are. I'm currently 25. I'm going to turn 26 this summer.
And then I am 28 and I got married just about a year ago. It's basically our 1-year anniversary.
Wait, literally it is.
Yeah, like next weekend.
That's crazy. I feel
Yeah.
like it was a lot warmer that time of year last
I
year.
know. Well, I will say we got married on June 1st and it was kind of touch and go kind of until that date. Like similar to this year, we had some warmer days here or there. And then leading up to it, it wasn't really like summer weather. And then on the day of our wedding was kind of like the first day, I feel like, where it was like, it got up to like 80 degrees and it was
Yeah.
sunny. We had really, really nice weather.
I remember people would be like, "Oh, hopefully it doesn't rain." I'm like, "It's not going to rain." Like I knew in my heart. I knew in my heart. Whenever you chose the date.
Anyway, so you got engaged this year. I got engaged when I was 26. I feel like, at least in our kind of, I don't know, cohort, there's a lot of mixed feelings about getting engaged and sort of being ready to like quote unquote settle down around this time of life.
100%.
And obviously people are at different places with being in a relationship that feels right
Mhm.
at this time of life. But I think even for people who are in a relationship, even a relationship where they think, okay, maybe one day I'd like to marry this person, there's kind of different feelings around, am I like old enough? Like is this
Yeah.
the time where I can get engaged? Am I ready?
It's funny because our parents got married when they were 23.
Yeah.
We always grew up with this story. They met in college. They were like 19. And I remember growing up thinking 23 was so old.
Yeah, I think this is true for a lot of people I meet, where they just kind of grow up thinking they're going to get married around when their parents did.
But even for our parents, like they were married on the younger side of their generation.
Totally, totally. Within their circle, yeah, there were, for sure, they had friends who got married older. They were sort of young for their cohort. But more normative, I would say. Like
For that
more
time.
in the, like, they're getting married at 23 is almost like how it feels, I think,
For us
for
getting
us
married
getting
mid
married at
20s.
27 and 26, for our cohort. Yeah, so anyway, I feel like it's interesting. I'm curious, what was your process like? Like, when did you know that you really felt ready and this was the time?
Yes. I feel like Lucas and I, my fiance, were on the same page.
Yeah.
So we've been together since high school. We met, I was 16, he was 17. I was a junior in high school, he was a senior. We've been together ever since, like haven't broken up, in a very stable relationship. I would say like after like a year in, I had the very childish, naive view of like, oh, I'm gonna marry him. Like, it
Yeah.
just felt like, yes, we will be together forever. Like, once we started being together and he was in college, especially once we were both in college, it felt like we were so adult. And also knowing that my parents got married at 23, I remember being like 19, even 20. Maybe when I turned 20, it felt like it was a little closer that, like, oh, after we graduate college, that would be a good time.
But also we should say you didn't go to the same school. So you
Oh,
were
yeah.
sort of long distance for college.
Yeah. We were
Yeah.
like, yeah, we were like an hour away drive. Neither of us had cars in college, so it ended up being like a 2-hour train ride, because you had to like take connecting trains. This is all to say we would probably see each other once to twice a month during the school year, and we were both very academically focused. I was pre-med, focused on medical school. He was a physics major and gearing up to do his physics PhD. So he was very focused on getting good grades and like doing his research. So it wasn't like we had a ton of free time. But I would say as we got closer to that graduating time, also it was like COVID when we were graduating. But even besides that, it felt like 23 was so young. Like the idea that we would get like engaged right after college kind of left my mind.
Why do you think it started to leave your mind at that age?
I think I always thought it was so old. Like, after when you're, like, a teenager,
Yeah.
after college is like, "Oh, you might as well be 50." Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
once you're actually there, you realize, like, "Oh, my prefrontal cortex, like, is truly not formed yet." Like,
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
I
Not
truly
to say, I mean, there's still people who get engaged at that age, but I guess
I do
yeah.
think it is very young to be fully making decisions for, like, your whole future. However, we we were together for so long. People would hear, like, I think at that point we were together like 5, 6 years. People would be like, "And you're not engaged yet?" Like, we're also only 22, 23.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I'm 25, that's not that much older.
Well, and you would have ended up marrying him
Yeah,
either
no
way,
matter
which is
what.
kinda interesting.
I do feel like also with our careers, I wanted to be in a space where we had the time, the money to, like, do it. Um, Specifically, like, the honeymoon was such an important part for me. I know we've talked about this, how
Yeah.
the most important thing for our wedding, besides, like, marrying the people we love, is that, like, the day after you are leaving for your 2-week honeymoon.
Yeah, which is a super incredible privilege to have because not everyone can do that with their job taking up time.
Sure, but we wanted to find the place, like, the time where we could do that.
Yeah.
And during my gap year, when he was starting he went straight through from his undergrad to a PhD program, like, that was not gonna be the time to honestly allow us, like, a nice time to focus on wedding planning and focus on getting the honeymoon and the wedding of our dreams.
Yeah.
We just weren't in the right place. I know that there's people up in my medical school, like, cohort who got engaged, like, our first year of medical school, got married. Some of them were back in the clinic, back at school the day after or 2 days
Wow.
after. And I'm like
Different strokes for different
different strokes
folks.
for different folks. I also am a big believer that your medical training should not determine your life outside of med school, and you should not be, like, putting off your life because of medical training. But for me, it was super important to, like, have a fun wedding where I could take those 2 weeks. So I will be getting married at the end of my 4th year in April, and we have a ton of time off, so I'm gonna take, like, 2 weeks off, go on my honeymoon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean, I know basically since you've started medical school, that kind of was the
Yeah,
plan.
and we were
Yeah.
super aligned on that. But I remember you're 2.5 years older than me. I
Yeah.
remember when she started dating her now husband, we also had a similar feeling of, "Oh, she's gonna get married to him."
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So I started dating my now husband when we were both 21. It was the summer before our senior year of college. And yeah, I mean, well, that we can maybe talk about this too because I think there's a difference between the feeling of knowing sometimes, okay, this is the person I'm going to marry versus feeling ready to get
Oh, that's such a
engaged.
good point. It makes me think of one of my really good friends, like, she is dating someone right now that I am just so confident that they are going to get married.
Yeah.
but neither of them are ready to get married. They've been dating under a year, but the joy and the security and the love that I see in them is like, "Oh, this is it." And
Yeah.
even the way they talk to each other, it is like they are so aligned, planning their future. From the outside, it's like, I just have so much confidence that they will get married, but they're still taking it slow. Like, they even had an opportunity where they gonna live together kind of after 1 year of dating, and they were like, "No, I don't think we're ready for that yet. Let's, like, wait another year."
Yeah.
And they're like she's, like, about a year older than me, so there is a difference between, like, they are so aligned knowing that they want to be like, they're gonna be together forever, but that they're not ready to take that leap, to actually get married and move forward to that right now. Like, it'll probably be another year or 2 before they get engaged.
Right. Well, I also feel like this is where age and also just like the sort of like circle that you're in. I feel like things that play into this are like geography and where, like, honestly, a lot of where you live and what kind of community you're in. Because I know that, like, we're in the Northeast, and I think in the Northeast, it's just a lot of people get married later than in other parts of the
Yeah,
country. And so I know people who are from like the Midwest or the South, for example, where in their hometown, most people by this point have gotten married.
100%.
And so I feel like all this to say, it kind of like interacts like when you meet the person, if you're around that age where like in your circle, in your community, a lot of people are getting married. Like for us, I feel like if you were to meet someone in like your early days around here, and for a lot of people, if they're like pretty certain they're going to marry this person, they may, not for everyone, but many people at that point would say, okay, I want to marry this person in my 30s. And in this area, that's a lot when a lot of people are getting married. So let's take the leap, right? In other areas of the country, that might be younger. That might be like mid 20s or something where
Right,
that would
like,
happen.
if we were Mormons living in Utah,
Yeah.
we would already have 5 kids.
Totally, totally. So I feel like, but if you meet someone like us where we met our like now lifetime partners, husband and fiance, when we were younger, much younger than like where what is normative to get married in
Mhm.
our circle, we were able to kind of like tease that apart and be like, okay, this is someone I want to marry and it's not happening right now just yet.
I feel that I wanted to see what our life was gonna look like a little bit more before we got married. So,
Mm,
there was gonna be a transition from when I did a gap year between college. Lucas ended up his PhD program was also in Philadelphia. I'm in Philadelphia right now. Um, but then let me start over. I also wanted to see where our life was going to take us
mhm.
and where we were gonna live. So we were kind of long distance in college, like medium distance. People who are like across the country are probably rolling their eyes, but we weren't together all the time. So I wanted to be able to live together first, and we hadn't had really that opportunity in college. Although my last year of college was COVID, he started a PhD program where I was at undergrad. So we had that last year of my college. That was like the first time we spent living together. And there were a couple like growing pains just in terms of like chores, how it just takes your relationship to a new level of trying to balance and work together. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No,
it
I
was a
think it
transition
does.
point. And I did a gap year doing research between college and med school in the same city. So now we're living together 2 years, but I didn't know where I was gonna go to med school. I applied. I would say most people in my class who were in a relationship before medical school had to do then long distance and move for medical school
Yeah.
because it is just a very competitive school to get into. You apply to, like, I don't even remember how, like 20 plus across like the Northeast I applied, and I could have ended up in Boston. I thankfully got into a medical school where we could be in the same city still, but that was very important to me to like kind of know more of our future and what that was going to look like before getting married. Like, I didn't want to have a long distance marriage, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Is that because you were uncertain about like you had any uncertainties about Lucas in your relationship?
No, I just knew what I wanted marriage to look like.
Mm.
So I wanted marriage to look like we were in the same place. I didn't People do long distance marriage, and that is awesome if that's like what is going to work best for them for like their education and career, but I did not want that. I wanted to make sure that when we were married, we were going to be in the same place. And I also think that there's a different level of commitment that you have to each other when you are married. And it's not like that switch is going to flip in April when I get married, but there is a difference between our relationship when I graduated college and now, in the sense that I will confidently make career decisions, including Lucas,
Yeah.
in those decisions. Like, I think when I graduated college and was applying to med school, I was so wanting to stay and live with Lucas and be in the same city. But if I needed to move and we needed to do long distance, I would have done that. But now, as we like transition to like our mid 20s and have been together like 8, 9 years, which is very long, I know I want our relationship to more look like if you get an opportunity where we have to be long distance, like that's not something that we're gonna even like consider now.
Yeah.
Like we are going to be making decisions together for where we're gonna live together, what opportunities we're gonna do together. Like where I match residency, he will go. If he gets a great opportunity somewhere else, I want to make sure I do fellowship near him. Like the decisions and moving towards that we are like a unit, a family. Um, that is the difference between even though we knew we were gonna get married earlier on, like now I think of us more as like a unit.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think that might not map on to how everyone thinks about it because there are people who, yeah, do long distance marriage or
Mhm.
who, that's how they think from earlier on. So that's
That's
not as
true.
much of a breaking point to say, okay, now is when we're ready for marriage. But I think it's helpful to like reflect. That's so interesting to like reflect
Yeah,
on.
I feel like with you with Jacob, I remember egging like all the time, calling him, being like, "Are you gonna propose to Missy? Are you gonna propose to her?" She's 3.5 years older, and I
Two and a
remember
half years older.
oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, 2.5 years older, like I rounded up, and I remember thinking any age that she was at was, like, so much older and more mature than me that I felt like, "Oh, she's 24, that's marriage o'clock, like, Jacob, like, what are you doing? Let's pick out rings." You were definitely ready before he was ready.
For sure. Yeah. So I think we were saying how our parents got married at 23, and so I had for a long time thrown that away because I, similar to you, at 23 was just in a different place in my life. Jacob, his parents got married around 30, and so I think in his mind, similar to us, like he had just grown up being like, okay, 30 roughly is the age that I'll get married. His parents also met later in life than he and
Mhm.
I met. So when we got married, when Jacob and I did ultimately get married at 27, we had been together for 6 years by that point. And so I think over time, the wheels started to spin for him. I think it took a lot of like, flexibility for him to be like, wait, maybe I could be
Yeah.
married at this age. I think for him, and this is something I hear a lot from other people, at least in my circle, is he was sort of expecting that one day the spark would hit him, like the muse would strike, and he would feel like an adult. Like he would feel like, oh, if
Mm,
I'm getting married, that must mean I have everything in my life together. Like I know
interesting.
how to do like I am
Mhm.
fluent in doing my taxes. Like I
Have a
have a
house.
house. You know, I'm ready to have children immediately and move to the suburbs or whatever. Like, I think that was just his thought process because that was more similar to what his parents did because they were at a later life stage. They had kids pretty much right away and had careers really underway at that point again because they were a few years older. And so, um, and, I also think too that what we remember about our parents comes from when, we were several years old. And so for many of our parents, they started off at a, less stable place in their career or more building things up, but maybe we were a baby at that point, right? And so the parts that he can remember are his parents, yeah, having a house and everything sort of like in a nice flow and
Yeah, because our parents lived in an apartment building. They
until yeah.
until they had our youngest brother, so I was at least, like, 4, but I don't really have memories before we were in a
Yeah, I
house.
was 6.5. So this also I think played into it too, where I grew up. I mean, my parents had careers. Our parents had me at 30. So although they got married young, they waited a bit to have kids. And that was another thing for me where I did not necessarily associate getting married with having kids right away.
Right. Yeah, no, me neither.
So I think Jacob, all of this was piling up for him where he was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Like we got engaged at 26 ultimately. And we had really started to talk about engagement. I mean, for a really long time, we knew like, okay, we're going to marry each other pretty much from early months of dating. We felt confident about that. I would say around when we were 25 is when we started to seriously talk about, like, I started to try on rings and we
I
started to
remember
seriously
that.
like talk about the timeline and be like, okay, what's holding us up? Because
Mhm.
similar to you, we then had been living together for a few years. We had sort of ironed out the like, all the kinks of that of just what it's like to live together and have a life together. We were on a path of from here on in, we are going to be in the same place and building our lives together. What exactly is holding us back? And I think at that point, Jacob was like, wait, but I don't want to move to the suburbs and have children. And then we can't afford a house right now. And
Right. That's so interesting that he connected marriage with really the next step in adult life versus just the next step in your relationship.
right. And I feel like to me, I was like, I don't, I also don't feel ready for any of those things, but I feel like, I guess maybe more, I mean, I guess it makes sense for it's related and we grew up similarly. But I feel like I had a similar thought process where I was kind of like, okay, yeah, I may not be ready for that stuff, but we've sort of gotten to a stable ground in our relationship where we also we went to different schools that were about 2 hours apart. And so we basically started our relationship long
Right.
distance,
Taking buses
taking
between
buses between
schools.
schools. Then the year after college, Jacob was abroad for most of the year. And so I stayed in Boston where I was living, and he was overseas. And
And there was a time
there was
difference.
yeah, of course, there was a time difference. He did have to come back due to COVID. So he was
Right.
supposed to be there for like a full 12 months, and he ended up being there really from like August to March of 2020. And only then did he kind of moved in with me impromptu during COVID, and we had been lived together ever
Right.
since. Um so we had these different life steps and we were far apart, and we both felt so confident from kind of the get-go that like I think this is my person and I think I'm going to marry this person. But yeah, after we had been living together for a few years, I think similar to you, I started to think, okay, this is stable ground, and yes, we need to there will be many other challenges and things that we will face together, but we've started to build a life together and things feel stable. Like
Yeah,
there's
I
just
mean,
not yeah.
it's interesting because I think in my brain, Jacob wouldn't have gone abroad if you guys were married, like, in that stage of life. Like, right now,
Yeah.
the idea that he would even plan something to go live away for a year is, like, not congruent with being married in my brain.
Right. And again, a lot of people do it. We know people who've done stuff like that. And I think that speaks to how everyone's relationship and definitions and ideas of these things is
100%.
so
But
different.
that's, I feel, our shared value of marriage is, like, truly being a unit.
Yeah, in that sense, for sure. Yeah, and so like I was saying, at that point, I was like, what's the holdup? Like I sort of feel ready. Um Honestly, I think something that helped for him was that he he's one of 4 kids, and
Yes.
he's the 3rd in 4 kids. And when how old were we? I think we were 25 when his oldest sibling, his brother, got married. And then a few months later, his older sister got engaged. And I think at that point, he both were younger than 30, so both had taken the step of getting married before his sort of like mental age that he'd always pictured. And I think that really helped him start to become flexible in this idea of like, wait, maybe I
Yeah,
could be ready to get
seeing
married.
we both will be on the earlier ages of people getting married. I think me, because it'll be like a year before you got married, will be even more so. But our peers, like the earlier ones are who have been together from like early 20s have started getting married. Like one of your best friends who was together with her high school sweetheart got married before you.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
was like I feel like these models of people, once people your age start getting married, it starts to become less scary.
I totally think so because I think for Jacob's friends, a lot of them had similar viewpoints to him where they were like, yeah, I just feel like I'm not quote unquote an adult yet. Like, I don't know if I can do this. And he does have several friends who are with the people who they will, get married to. But I do think that Jacob was kind of the first of his friends to propose and then get married. And lo and behold, after that, a few of them ended up getting engaged. And I
I know.
that it was really not that we can fully take credit, but I do think that for a few of them it started to get the wheels spinning like,
Mhm.
okay, maybe I could be ready for this.
No,
Yeah.
for sure. It's very interesting because not that me and Lucas are going to have babies anytime soon, but even this idea that we're not ready for a baby right now because we're so young, like we have now two friends. One of them, she's actually your age, so she's 2 years older than me, just had a sweet little baby.
Yeah.
And she is the most precious angel child, amazing. So then Lucas is seeing like an example of someone whose parents at our age, and then his good friend, his partner is having a baby. So there's now like two examples of people our age having kids.
I think the peer effects are very real.
Yes. Yeah, because I feel like we're both in careers that we are just like ambitious girl boss girlies. Like
Yeah.
again, if you listen to our last episode, you know that we don't really align with that anymore.
Well,
Even
I mean, we do in that, like, I think what's tricky, and I don't know if anyone else out there can relate to this, and maybe most people don't fall into either of these buckets. But I think what can be tricky is when there's like sort of a stereotypical model out there for what it looks like to be a woman who really just wants to be ambitious about their career and really just wants to
right.
prioritize that. And then there's a model of women who like the trad wife vibe of like, I
Yes.
just want to stay home. The main thing that's important to me is having a husband and having a family, right? And I feel that we're both somewhere in the middle of that.
100%. And I feel like as the years go on, I'm like more towards like I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. Although I'm continuing to get fulfillment from my career and envision myself continuing it, I do feel that I am not completely aligned with the people that I am spending most of my time around. Because I remember talking to one of the surgical residents on one of my rotations, and she said she wanted kids, but just was so like she expressed almost like annoyance that she had to be the one to like carry the baby and have the pregnancy because it would like interfere with her career.
Which is so valid.
So valid.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was not that it's like it's more stereotypical surgeon, but there's definitely people across the medical fields who just are putting their careers. That is the thing that is the most important to them. They might also want a family, but they like are focusing on how making sure their career will not be impacted in any way.
Yeah. Right. I think that's honestly the majority of the kind of person that I'm around too. There's for sure exceptions to that, but I do think that the majority of people who are around my age in their careers, whether they're in school with me doing their PhD or just like friend group, are sort of like I can't even imagine right now putting my career on hold or, you know, doing the thing like planning a wedding or any of those things. And again, I think that's super valid because it is true and it's real that it impacts people making those decisions, especially women if they're carrying a baby, right? Like just taking maternity leave or even just going to all the doctor's appointments, everything like that through pregnancy, I think it takes a toll. And then having a child, of course, like you
Oh, yeah, it's going
it
to impact
uproots
your
your life.
career
It does. Um
unless you have a bazillion family supports, people to help you, and $1,000,000, like,
yeah.
you you're gonna something's gonna need to give. That doesn't mean you're gonna be, like, a worse doctor or worse psychologist or whatever, it's just things are gonna change, like,
You do have
literally
to like your priorities
adjust.
need to adjust. Totally. I think and then yeah, I think again, sometimes I think it feels and I think this is probably my own thing, but sometimes I kind of like hesitate to express that well, first of all, I think, getting married at the age that we did, but express that like, yeah, in a couple years, like I think we'll have a child.
No, 100%. I mean, I truly don't we don't have, like, "We are gonna have a baby this year," but I am personally open to having a baby during residency. And when I say that to people, it is like I am just blowing their minds. And I truly have had many people say to me, like, why now? Why then instead of like any other time? Like, what about when you finish? And in my brain, there's always gonna be like pain points in your career. Honestly, I think one of like the best times if you have the money to do it would be like right now, like fourth year of medical school, just because you have flexibility and you can work with like your school and stuff. But residency is stressful. But after residency, I want to do fellowship. And then after fellowship, you're a new attending doctor, like, and having to like build your career. I don't think that in your reproductive years, like, obviously that can be longer, but like in your prime reproductive years, there's a perfect time to get, like, have a baby, start a family
Right.
in your training. And also, I remember being on my surgical rotation and there was a woman who is like highly trained. She is actually so cool. She did a whole pediatrics residency, was a pediatrician, went back and did a surgical residency. I think she did like 2 fellowships. I think she did a vascular surgery fellowship and then was doing a pediatric surgery fellowship. She was in her 40s, just had her first child, and was very open about the fact that she struggled with infertility and had to do IVF. And she found out that I was not yet engaged. She was like, found out that I had been with my then boyfriend for like 8 years at the time. And she was like, "Why aren't you married? You need to have a baby," like playfully. She was like, "Do not delay having a baby for your medical training." Like it is so much harder if you have to go through like fertility treatments. Like I would do anything to go back and have
Wow.
it during residency. And it's so interesting because I think people our age who are going through it and even like maybe a little bit older are so focused on like their end goal of once I become this, then I will be ready to start a family or get married. But then I talk to the people that are at that end goal who maybe did put off things, and truly almost all of them have told me to not wait to like have a baby. I have talked to then like multiple people who struggled with infertility because they waited past when they were 35. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Lucas's parents were older when they had him and they're wonderful, lovely parents. There's nothing wrong with being an older parent. But if I know that's a goal for me to have kids and that is extremely important and something I want, why am I letting this career stand in the way of
Yeah.
that?
Well, actually, this is a good segue because I'm going to bring it back to also tying back in the marriage stuff right now. This is something that Jacob and I would talk about probably more like before we seriously were planning the engagement, more so around when we were like 25, really starting to pin down when is it that we'd like to get engaged and then get married. My point was always if we feel ready now, like who cares about the societal things of like we feel like you need to feel like an adult or you should be this age, right? Why can't we just do it now? And Jacob's point was like, well, by that standard, why wouldn't you have been ready at 23 to get married?
Yeah.
I'm curious what you
I
think about that.
again, I think I was ready in the sense that I was ready to know that we would be together forever. Like, there has been no doubt in my mind, at least since I was 18, like 2 years after I met Lucas, that we would get married.
Yeah.
But I also did feel like I knew I was very young and I wanted to be able to live the life of a girlfriend. Like, truly, I remember being like, girlfriend is sounds so much cooler than fiance, sounds cooler than wife. Like a girlfriend, she can go on like trips with her friends. Of course, you can do all of this as a wife, as a fiance, as a whatever. It's not like a controlling situation. But just in my brain, I felt like I wanted to have more of that freedom of being a girlfriend, like taking trips and being able to like put my career like
Yeah.
ahead. But I don't even know if that makes sense. Like again, what I was saying with like when I was gonna be a fiance or move into having like being married, I knew what I wanted that to look like and I wasn't ready for that yet. Meaning I knew I was going to think of us as a unit. We were gonna make decisions together. Like, of course, I would still be able to take trips and do whatever alone with my friends, but we were gonna like think about each other's needs more than we were like when I was like 22, 23. Does
But
that make any
no, I
sense?
think it does, but you know what's interesting is I think, like, it kinda just sounds like you had this similar to
I
Jacob,
had this
it
idea of
was
what
younger,
marriage.
it was just younger, and I think I relate to that too, that it was just like, okay, at a certain point, I had reached and you had reached that threshold of, "This is kinda how I wanted to feel when I was ready to get married." So,
Yeah,
we've
I mean,
arrived.
when I'm ready to get married, like, I also want my cholesterol to be low. I have high cholesterol, everyone. My goal is by my wedding to have normal cholesterol, so fingers crossed.
Um,
That's another goal of mine.
I think but, like, it just gets at I think it's such a tough needle to thread because no one should ever be forced into marriage. I think both parties should I hope this is not a hot take, right? Like feel ready, feel that they're excited about it and they whether there's really any rhyme or reason, they just feel like this is right. That said, I think what can be hard if there's a mismatch in timelines is to like tease apart
What is the
what
holding
what
back?
is holding back.
Is it
Yeah.
that you are not aligned in wanting to be together forever and wanting to get
Yeah.
married? Or is it that you are not aligned in feeling like this is the stage of life you wanna get married, which I feel like is kind of what you and Jacob were falling into more.
Yes, but I actually think that us talking about it me, for example, being very clear with him that, yeah, I do not wanna try to have a baby right after we get married. I part of why I wanted to get married when we did was so that we could have a time in life that was just us 2, but married.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think another thing is like we come from families that there's no divorce.
Yeah,
Like truly, Lucas's family, there's not like his parents are still together. I personally just view marriage as like we are not getting divorced. Not that I'm so thankful that divorce is an option. Of course, like you don't know until you know. Like you can't predict the future, but
yeah,
and I'm sure like no one goes into marriage thinking that they're going to get a divorce, but in my brain it is such a big commitment that I kind of knew like I wanted to be further along. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to like I feel like 25 in my brain was like, okay, my brain's going to be more developed. I can really commit to this person. I'm going to be able to
yeah,
make a decision. In my brain, like saying yes was like, I am committed to you. Like you could get into a terrible medical accident. Like your brain, like you go into like a vegetative state. Like I will be there for you forever. Like it's a commitment for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
So, and I don't think maybe that goes back to like the whole girlfriend thing. Like, I don't know if I was like, although I loved him, knew I wanted to be together forever, like, I don't know if I was able to like give that commitment earlier in our relationship.
Totally, totally. Yeah, so I think yeah, I think Jacob and I were fully I think I had a similar thought as you and then Jacob and I were both reaching that place for sure around that 24, 25 age just because we had been together then for by the time we were 25, we had been together for 4 years, lived together for a period of that and like just really felt so solid integrated into each other's families. Um And I think anyway, yeah, explaining to him, like, what I thought of as marriage versus what he expected it to be, I think was really helpful because he was in that place where he was like, "Yeah, I'm committed to you. I am 110% in this. I am here for the long haul. I one day wanna have a family with you, right? Like, I always wanna keep living with you." So he could agree to all of those things super easily, and I think started to think, "Okay, maybe then this is something that I'm, like, open to trying."
It's interesting because I don't think do you follow Aspen Ovard? Do you know her at
No,
all?
no.
I've been following her since she, like, did her little makeup tutorials and was, like, more of a, like, I don't know, back in the teens era, but she is from Utah, married her high school boyfriend very young. I think she was, like, 19, and in the past year has, like, gotten a divorce, and
Wow.
she talks a lot, and she is now very anti-marriage. Because
Wow.
she's like, "I never want to feel so like we can't just break up, like, we have to go through legal roads, like, we have to involve a government in the breakup." Like, she is very of
Wow.
the belief that, like, while she'd have a lifelong partner, she does not want to ever get married again, and to be
Mm.
honest, I see her point. Like, it is not where I am, but I do think that, like, what is the purpose of marriage? Like, you can do all of these things. You can be committed to someone legally.
Yeah.
You can, like, set up power of attorney will so that there almost is, like, no difference between being married and not married. You can have kids together. There really is no, like, difference. So, the difference is that, like, legally, it's just harder to break up if you
Definitely. I will say the wedding is also it's one day, but it is a really it was like a momentous, powerful experience, I think, for both of
I
us to
know.
have.
It's interesting because there is we were raised Jewish, and I remember, Missy, you were telling me about this, like, idea that bride and groom are, like,
Closer to God.
closer to
Yeah,
God on
in
their wedding
Judaism.
day, and I have to say, I have never not cried watching a bride come down the aisle.
Yeah.
It is magical to watch, and you can have a ceremony, you can have a commitment ceremony without getting married, but for some reason, watching 2 people get married, it is like they are sparkling.
I don't know how else like, this is gonna sound so sappy, but I don't know how else to describe that day other than feeling like I was touching another realm. Like, it
And
was
I truly feel like we've been to a lot of weddings in the past year, and every single bride, like, was the most beautiful creature I've ever seen in
yeah,
my whole
yeah,
life. Like, I think when you're truly committing to someone and your life partner, first of all, you have amazing hair and makeup and, like, a perfectly tailored dress,
that helps.
but when I tell you just, like, from their soul emitting this, like, glow and
Yeah.
joy, I'm like, "These people are reaching a next level of
I
being
felt
human."
that.
Like, they are going to a next
Yeah.
step, like, this is changing their relationship.
Yeah, I am excited for you to experience it.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know if I've, like, fully experienced the, like, transformation that just, like, having a ceremony may do to your relationship.
Yeah, I think that's not really talked about, and maybe this is not everyone's experience. I'm sure it's not every single person's experience, and people also choose to do very different weddings. So, there's obviously plenty of people who choose to get married and have, just go to a courthouse and have their ceremony there or just
100%
have
elope. This is
yeah,
not saying, again, like, so many different ways to get married, so many different ways to have super valid relationships. I think, again, like, just complete disclaimer, like, this is how we are viewing things,
yeah,
not saying how other people should view things. But yes, I think going through it is, like, intentionally shaping a change in your relationship.
totally agree. Yeah, so I think there is something and it really may not be for everyone. I'm sure it's probably not. But I think in my case, I think in your case too, there was a real purpose in like having the wedding, proclaiming our love, bringing also underrated, I think. bringing
The
everyone you
families.
know together in the same place.
Wait, that is such a good point because I remember when one of my, like, bestie friends got married. She lived kind of far away, and we tried to make it to as many of, like, the wedding events as we could. I think we went to her bridal shower, there's, like, the bachelorette party, and then, like, the rehearsal dinner, the wedding, and throughout this, I'm, like, meeting her family,
Yeah.
and by the wedding, I am, like, dancing with her cousins, like, fully feel like I'm aside from friending them on Facebook and wishing them happy birthday now, like, I know all of the main characters. Like, I go over to visit her now, I know all of the main players. I feel more a part of the family. Like, weddings merge two families together.
They really do. They really do. That was something I don't even think I really fully understood going in, even though I'd been a bridesmaid before. I just think when it happens to you, and I don't know if you've even started to experience this, like, I just think, like, yeah, we got engaged, and the night we got engaged, Jacob had planned this little party with a lot of our friends that was just like at a bar, like kind of impromptu, casual, and you had something similar.
Yeah,
Yeah, so even at those, it's like, okay, people start to meet, right? And then throughout that, we had a bunch of different events. We had like a family engagement dinner with both of our families getting to meet. We had then of course like I did a bridal shower,
you do bachelorette
I had a
party,
bachelorette weekend, Jacob
rehearsal
did a
dinner.
bachelor party, we had a rehearsal dinner. Similarly, by the end, it was so amazing to me to see my own circles all really get to know each other. That is just
That's so
amazing
special.
to
And
me.
kind of like lore here is that we've known Jacob's family since
Yes.
since Jacob was very young.
Yes.
Like,
That's
just
how we
we
originally knew each other.
did not
So,
reconnect until, like, later,
yeah.
but my mom is friends with his mom. This is all to say, like, people kind of knew each other, but I didn't really know Jacob's family. But now after this, like, I'm I feel like I could call Jacob's sisters up if
Yes.
I needed anything.
So, I think there's there's plenty to say about weddings and problems with having traditional weddings.
And not all families are gonna, like, be as it's not gonna be, like, as simple. Like, even the
Yeah.
friend that I was talking about, like, has a very complicated family situation. The one that I was saying, like, I went and, like, feel very, like, I could go over to her place and, like, know all the
Yeah.
main characters, like, it was complicated, but still even within your circles, like, bonding people together is
Yeah.
so special. Like, truly, you feel like you're becoming or I've observed people becoming a unit and then having their circles become more of a unit as well.
Yeah. There's other ways you can do that, of course.
100%.
And different things really are going to work, I think, for different families and different situations. But all this to say, I think there were benefits just way over and above what I could have expected for going through that experience.
We also are very like, we've been planning our weddings since, like, it's probably, like, my first word, wedding, like, not actually.
I think you were a little bit more like that though.
Really?
I would plan, okay, when I want to get married and all of that, but I never thought too much about my actual wedding
No,
day.
in high school, I had a Pinterest board for, like, my wedding. It was very 2010s, like, mason jar. Not using those pins for inspo right now, but I always and maybe it was I'm trying to think, especially because for so long I knew I was gonna marry Lucas, I, like, gave myself full permission then to kind of explore what I thought that wedding would look like, but even I remember being, like, young, playing, like, Barbies or playing with baby dolls, like, doing fake marriages and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I feel like I was not as much into like the actual wedding stuff and so that was actually probably the biggest hurdle for me to get engaged was being like, do I even know what I'm doing to plan a wedding?
Interesting. I do feel like I had more of, like, a structure or, like, I can't think of the word, like, a basis for
Yeah.
what a wedding will look like just because now I have been to more weddings before I'm getting married than I think you had, and just the fact that, like, we are gonna have similar.
Well, now I, as the older sister, have done it, and
Yeah,
we have
exactly, like,
some yeah.
as the maid of honor for you, I actually was a maid of honor before for that other wedding I
That's
was
true,
talking about,
yeah.
and even the second time you do it, you're a little better, but, like, just knowing what I can take from different things. Everyone asks me like, "Oh, is it so stressful, like, planning a wedding?" I'm like, I know exactly what I want. I can make decisions
Yeah.
very easily because I'm like, I've pictured what my flowers are gonna look like since I was 7. Like,
That was not me at
I
all.
know what I want. Like, I know colors, I know vibes, I know what kind of music I want. Like,
Yeah.
everything is already planned out. So it's just I find the vendor that can do it, and that's the one I'm gonna get.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I feel like if anything for me that you I know I was saying that around 25 is when Jacob and I like really started to talk about exact timeline and I felt super ready at that time, but honestly one main reason I'm glad we waited one more year and I got engaged at 26 is I think it allowed me a little bit more time to seriously start thinking about what I
Interesting.
wanted in a wedding. I totally think I could have done it but I I think it was only at that point that I started to look at even rings and be like, "I don't even know what I like in a ring. I don't know, like, the aesthetics of it."
Meanwhile, I
I
knew
just
what I
had
wanted in a
not
ring
considered.
since I was born. Like,
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And so, yeah, that's interesting.
yeah, here's one piece of advice I'm going to give everyone listening about their wedding. It is the one piece of advice that I truly hope you take. If you are going to have a more traditional wedding, you need to walk slowly down the aisle. Okay, listen to me. People get nervous, they are racing down the aisle. When I say, again, brides, you are the most beautiful, glowing creature on planet Earth, and I want to admire you. Okay, and you're running down the aisle, and this is your moment. I need you to go so slow that people are like, "Is she moving?" Because that's how long I want to look at you. Okay? And it is your moment. It's your moment.
You only get one
You
hopefully, if you're marrying the person you wanna stay with forever
Yes,
and that ends up working out.
this is your moment.
Yeah,
And when I say how many times I'm at weddings and I'm like, I missed it.
you
Like, I
blink and yeah.
blinked. Like, we got to play a little lower tempo music, and I need you to walk slow. I remember at Missy's wedding and at my other friend's wedding, I was like to the bridesmaids because they set the pace, walk slow. We had to do rehearsals walking slow because people don't understand. Maybe it's also like a North Jersey, New York thing.
People are used to
People
walking
are
fast.
used to walking fast and like being in a rush. I'm like, this is your moment.
Yeah,
Walk slow. And yeah, I know I'm like just rambling on about this, but like it is truly like a
yeah.
cause dear to my heart that like
It
this is your
does
time.
it does it is a good piece of advice speaking from
I
experience.
mean, you picture the walking down the aisle, like, that is probably the most, in my opinion, the most emotional part of the ceremony, like, when whoever is receiving the person is watching the person walking down the aisle, like, that is just,
Yeah.
and not to say grooms, you're not beautiful too, but a girly on her wedding day, or 2 girlies on their wedding day, that's something special.
Yeah. There's a certain glow.
Magic, you're closer to God.
Yeah. I once had a dream, like, after our wedding that or maybe it was right before. I was having a lot of stress dreams that it was, like, our wedding day leading up to the wedding, and we hadn't planned certain things. But I had this one dream where it was like, "Okay, that was my wedding, and now Jacob gets the wedding."
I saw this TikTok of a bride saying that she wasn't, like, letting her fiancé, like, future husband wear, like, green tuxedos or whatever,
Okay.
and that she was like, "No, it doesn't go with the color scheme, whatever," and people were, like, coming at her because they were like, "It's his day too. He should get a say," and then I heard a take that was like, but he's not considering the color scheme. Like, maybe the color scheme is totally clashing with green. Like, he doesn't have the whole picture in mind.
Right. I mean, this comes down to I think when you're actually planning the wedding, every couple is going to be really different with
This is
this.
true.
I do know brides who are like, I literally don't skincare and I want
I
my
know.
partner to be doing so much of it, or I want my parents to be doing so much of it. I think if you're in a situation though where in many cases, if there is a bride and a groom, I think this is stereotypical, but I think there's truth to it for many people, and it was for me, that like I cared a lot more and I didn't even mind. Like I really truly loved planning the wedding, and ultimately once I learned a lot more about what I wanted, having that say, Jacob really didn't have, he cared about certain things which he absolutely weighed in on, but he
Yeah.
so much of it, like certainly the colors, the flowers, things like that, he could not care less. He could not have cared less.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it does get like, it was a day. There were other things that were important to him about like the vibe and the feel of the day. The music was important to him.
Yeah, the music
But
is
I
more
just think it's
important
like,
for
and that
Lucas.
that is where for me there were times where I had to be like, okay, tell me about what you want our first look to be like. Tell me what you want the band to be like, or do you want a band or a DJ, right? And for me to be able to step back to like let his vision in. But like if you're thinking about a pie chart, I cared about probably like 85% or more of the pie so much. And that same 85% Jacob didn't care that much about. So if he was throwing out ideas, he was like, okay, well, ultimately I don't care that much. And this is like something you do care a lot about, right?
Yeah, I feel like Lucas is just so supportive. As long as I come up with an idea that like is nice, like I'm not saying like and everyone at the wedding has to wear orange and electric green, like
Sure, sure.
honestly, he'd probably be like, "Okay," but for the most part, he's just like, "Oh, yeah, supportive," because honestly, I just feel like I have good taste.
Well, and he
So it's
doesn't
easy to agree with,
care. Like,
and
I
he
think,
doesn't care as much as like, I have a vision. His vision is just like a happy day that's, like, filled with joy and good vibes, and I can curate that.
yeah. Well, I do think this comes down to a broader thing about being in a couple that I sometimes think about, which is that sometimes there can be an obsession with like zooming in on a particular thing, like your wedding or household chores or whatever it is in your life, and being like, that thing needs to be a 100% equal 50-50 split.
Mm,
And I am all for pushing for equality in these things and making sure that broadly your marriage or your relationship feels like a give and take that's roughly, I don't even want to say 50-50, but roughly feels like both parties are giving and receiving and it's a mutual
yeah,
balance. But I think that sometimes you have to zoom out because one person may be putting a lot into the wedding and another person might be putting a lot into your home life or other aspects of your life. And this also goes for different stages of your relationship, right? Like there might
yeah,
be times where, let's say, someone is really, really caring about their career. And so they're putting in a lot of time to their career so that you both can afford more, right? And like dedicates sort of more, quote unquote, to the relationship in that time. Maybe later there's another partner who cares more about childcare or really is invested in like when you buy a house, like what that looks like, right? So I do think that these things can still be unequal and every couple has to do what's right for them. But there can be this obsession with like with the wedding, like it has to be like 50-50. And I was like,
I'm like, "It's okay,
no,
it's not that deep."
it's not that deep.
Like, whoever cares more,
Yeah,
take the lead.
we feel mutually supported. What was so nice was it was a really busy work time for me planning the wedding and I was planning the wedding. So it was very overwhelming, but I wanted to be doing all of it. Like I really genuinely did.
Yeah,
Jacob took on a lot of other stuff. Like in that time, he did the bulk of our cooking. For example, like I would come home and I'd be like, I have a million things to do. We don't even have dinner. And he'd be like, I'll handle it. I'll take on cooking tonight.
right.
Right. Not to say that, like, I feel like now people are going to be like, all he did was cook, but there's so much more. Like,
Honestly, a little bit, no.
no, no, no. I feel like there, that was just one small example of how, and also like, again, who's to say, like, I wanted to be that busy doing those things. So I
Yeah,
didn't feel somehow like he was not chipping in to be doing that. And he was noticing that I did have a lot on my plate and tried to take out anything that he could on his end. But I think this striving for being 100% equal, it may work for some people. It just wasn't the vibe that worked best for us.
what again, like, I don't even know if we said this disclaimer or not, but of course, this is like all very heteronormative things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, like, not every of course, not every wedding is gonna be, like, between a bride and a groom. So, this is just, like, what we are working within because we both were brides marrying grooms. But
Yes.
to say, "Oh, it's, like, the bride's day," like, of course, can come off very, like,
Feeling like
n
it could exclude people who are
exclusionary.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm. So, that's, like, the big disclaimer. Doesn't mean you can race down the aisle, like, no matter who you are, girl, guy, non-binary, whatever, walk slow. It is your day. Like, that is the one thing.
Yeah,
Eloping, I don't care. Walking up the stairs, City Hall, like, walk slow.
yeah. It's your moment.
It's your moment. That is what I think carries over to
Yes.
every wedding. Other than that, of course, like, just do what makes you happy.
I think the other big elephant in the room that we haven't addressed is finances
That's
and
such a
being
good
ready
point.
to get married.
110%. And what I will say is, like, when I was talking about the honeymoon, like, we did not have enough money to take, first of all, to take the 2 weeks off. And second of all, to like earlier in med school, just to have that 2 weeks off, but also to pay for a honeymoon that I wanted. So, like,
Yeah,
we had to wait, but we also are, like, so privileged that, like, we're not paying for the wedding.
yeah. Um,
That's what makes it, are you kidding? Like, that should be, like, my real response when people say, like, "Oh, isn't it so stressful planning a wedding?" I'm like, "It's a lot less stressful when you're not cashing the checks." Like, or wait, it's a lot less stressful when you're not the one, like,
writing the checks.
writing the checks.
Yeah,
Actually, that would
yeah,
be less stressful if I was making money through this. But, yeah, I mean, I can make the decisions I want. Like, we still have a budget, but because I'm able to stress-free work within that budget that our parents are setting out, it's so much less stressful.
yeah. And I think that also plays into feeling quote unquote ready to get married because
Yes.
I've also known people where they're like, yeah, I'm feeling that I feel ready, but I'm not at a place financially where I can pay for the wedding that I do want. This like special day that we were talking about where you bring your whole family together and can afford to pay for that many people to be there celebrating you.
It's so interesting because I remember we were walking in the park and we saw, like, what you would consider, like, a very inexpensive wedding. It was literally just, like, in a park, free, right? But then they had, like, seats out, and but when you actually add up the cost of, like, what, like, a backyard cheap wedding would be, it is still expensive. I'm, like,
Yeah.
renting furniture, the arch that they got, when y sound system, renting that, getting the dresses, getting the make even an inexpensive wedding can come out to,
It's
like, thousands of
super,
dollars.
super
Food,
expensive.
getting food for that many people, hundreds of dollars, like,
Yeah.
and you could be getting pizza. Like,
100%. And that may be why some people feel really ready and they are not able to afford a big wedding. And so they're like, I'm going to get married at City Hall, or I'm just going to do immediate family and we all get a nice dinner afterwards, or I'm going to elope because they feel that strong feeling of being ready. And there's lots of other reasons why people do small weddings or elope. But one big reason is finances, of course, if they're feeling like now's the time where I want to do this and I just can't afford that bigger wedding.
yeah, combining finances is another thing. Some people, like, have debt, some people,
Yeah.
like, that's, like, a consideration, and then we were even, because I'm turning 26 this summer, so I'm not gonna be able to be on my parents' health insurance, I'm like, "Should we just get, like, legally married so I can get on your health insurance?" Like, that's another
Yeah,
thing, like, there are legal privileges that come with being married that can impact your decision.
totally. Right. So it's something I think in so many of these ways, right? Like even thinking about, okay, would it save us money to file jointly for
Right.
taxes? Which it did for Jacob and me.
I make $0 right now, so it wouldn't
Yeah.
impact, I don't think,
Um,
I don't know. He also makes very little.
yeah. So I think just thinking about these things can absolutely impact your decision. But I think for us, what was such a privilege was the fact that we and our partners both came to a point where we felt really ready to do this.
And financially, it wasn't a struggle. It
It
wasn't a
wasn't a
struggle.
barrier. It wasn't a
That's a
barrier.
really good point.
So I think we were just able to take that leap. But I do
I
think that's
know.
another really big thing that comes up for
I'm
people, of
trying to
course.
think, I think if it were, like, we were in a situation where it was, like, more of a financial, like, question,
Barrier.
I think we still would get married at this point, like, I just think it would be much smaller and a very different, like, wedding, but I think it is just, like, very important to me to have a wedding at this point in my life. Like, I feel very ready.
I think I feel the same way. It's impossible for me to tease apart.
I know, like, because I haven't really had to think about it, but, like, I don't think like, after 10
Yeah.
years of being together, I don't think I could get to 11 years without saying
Yeah.
I'm married because I am just so ready to get to that next step of, like, other
Being a
people
wife.
wife. I'm ready to and I'm in my fiance era, which is very fun. It's a really
Yeah.
fun time, and as a Leo, as you know, although I don't believe in astrology, what I will say is it is accurate. Like, I actually do love attention. I mean, I'm making this podcast right now. I do love it. I do love when people ask me and, like, fawn over me because they're like, "Show me the dress, show me blah, blah, blah." I'm eating it up. I love being the center of attention, like, multiple parties about me, like, fiance era is it.
Yeah.
I love it, and I can't wait to be I'm like, "Am I even looking forward to wife era, actually?"
Well, okay, this is interesting too because I felt like I was nervous for that time because I was like, I'm
Yeah.
loving being a fiance.
Like, was it, like, a letdown, like or, like, post-wedding, did you come back and, like, "Oh, man, I have
You know
nothing to look
what?
forward to anymore."
No. This may be my own experience. First, I do think what helped was the 2-week honeymoon because
That always
I
helps.
mean, at that point
2-week honeymoon. 2 things we're gonna sell you on. Going walking slowly down the aisle and taking a honeymoon
right away.
right away. I don't care if it's one night.
Yeah. I think just
Take
doing
it.
something because and especially with we were so lucky to have 2 weeks. We planned it for a time where that would be doable for my like school schedule and Jacob would have vacation. But having that, I think helped just with the immediate letdown because it's like you have this amazing trip and then by 2 weeks you're like, okay, I'm ready. I can come back to reality. I'm okay. I think what I just didn't expect was how incredible it was to now have this amazing memory of the wedding.
Wow.
And it's just like we were now we get to look back on that.
Have the photos.
Yeah, I think
That's so sweet.
it's just like a level of special that I didn't know before in my fiance era.
Okay, this just popped into my brain. So random. Like, maybe I'll cut this and put it back in an earlier but I just am thinking of something that has changed between the time that I'm, like, 20 to now getting
Mm,
married. Is that more of our friends are in relationships, which means that we're able to do more things, me and Lucas together.
mm,
Because it used to be like, I'm not gonna bring Lucas on a girls' night out.
sure.
My girls' night out is going to Target. Like, don't go crazy. But when it's just the girlies, like, and no one else is there. But now a lot of my girlies, we can do double dates. Even like, I feel like I never hung out with his friends, like in my late teens, early 20s. But now a lot of them have girlfriends and I love hanging out with them. And so truly, I just feel like the world is now more our world is more set up for us to be a couple and be more serious with each other because we can navigate the world together with our like connections with our friends. Like even like hanging out with you and Jacob, my
Yeah.
brother and his girlfriend. Like it's so much fun.
Yeah. I feel like what we're coming up to is that there's not some magic point where you just know you're ready. But for most people, I guess it's just like a series of these things where you start to feel like you're in a more stable place.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, to summarize, if you were to say neatly based on our conversation, like how should people know if they're ready to get engaged?
If I could neatly summarize, is you've hit a plateau in your relationship. Meaning like
You're on stable ground.
you're on stable ground, like, you're building this relationship together, you've gone to a point. Now you I mean, in my, like, belief, I would want to live with my person, really settle out, like, what shared values, all these things, we really know each other, we know each other's family, like but now we've, like, built it. Like, we're there, we built all those things, we're there. We're on solid ground, and we've been there for a while, and we're ready to, like, take the next step, which for us is, like, really committing to, like, doing life together.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think
Like,
so.
you might know that you wanna marry them as you're climbing and building, but you're s not there, and then you've, like, reached this place where it's like, we've made it to, like, a peak, and we're just kinda sitting here.
Yes, I totally feel that. Another thing I will say, and again, this is a difficult needle to thread because I don't think anyone should ever feel pushed or to get married or who should get married who doesn't actually truly feel ready. But on the other hand, I think
I know
a
what you're gonna
lot of the
say.
milestones that we want to think about are like totally arbitrary. Even the ones that Allie and I talked about that are like the ones we felt of like moving in and okay, now we want to be feeling like we would always live with this person and not like move separately, right? Like that was arbitrary. And that was what was right for us. But like maybe we could have been flexible on that. I don't know.
I would say
But you shouldn't be pushed. And so I don't know exactly how to say
okay,
this.
what I thought you were gonna say, which is something different, is I think my if I were to regret not getting married earlier, my only regret would be that grandpa's not there. Because we were very fortunate for a long time to have all 4 of our grandparents, and now both Lucas and I have lost grandparents from the point that we were at our early 20s to now, and it is sad to me. And, of course, like, I've lost, like, my best friend, like, she passed away, and that is sad for me. That
Yeah.
they're not there. I would say
Yeah.
that is, like, the only regret I have. That's not a reason to get married earlier, just for of course, I could have never predicted that someone my age would have died, but
Yeah.
when we talk about, like, mixing the families together, mixing the friends together, the fact that they weren't a part of it is, like, sad to me. And
Totally.
he was gonna officiate your wedding.
Yes. So our grandfather was a judge and he had been dropping hints for a long time. Like,
Yes, he
I'd
was like, "I
love
do
to
weddings."
officiate. And we were really, that would have been so meaningful, obviously, to me. And he really got to know Jacob, and Jacob really was like into the idea as well. Um, Around the time that we actually a little bit before we got engaged, his health really went
Yeah,
downhill and we really weren't sure. He was able to see us get engaged, which was incredibly
yeah.
special, but it became clear pretty soon after that we weren't sure what was going to happen. And he did end up passing away before our wedding. And we were married by Jacob's best friend, and he did a phenomenal job. Like, he was
Right, but
10 out of
yeah,
10
just
efficient.
talking about
I think, right, to your point, it was sad that had we gotten married a year earlier, he would have been
I
there.
know, and so, yeah, that would be my only regret of not getting married earlier. I don't think that's a reason to have, but it's something that I do think about. If, like, you're in a stage of life, but your older people in your life are also in a stage of life. Like, your
Yeah,
parents are in a stage of life, so, like, wanting all of those things to line up.
totally. And again, I don't think anyone should be pushed to get married because of like that pressure, but it's actually more like what's important to you. If you're sitting there and you're like, okay, all things equal, I'd love to make sure that, let's say, my grandparents can attend my wedding, then you may want to realize, okay, I actually want to like do this sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Um, Again, maybe that's not as important to you, or maybe that's just not your situation, but it's another consideration.
On that note, thank you so much for listening. I'd love to hear more about what y'all's thoughts are on, like, marriage when you
Yeah.
knew you were ready.
Or if you're not sure you're ready and you have thoughts, let us
Yes,
know.
I'm sure that we have, like, a lot of I don't know, it's hard to see outside of your own bias because we have very similar opinions, grew up in very similar ways, like, we're sisters. It's, like, hard to see outside of what we think marriage
Yeah.
is and why a wedding's important to us, but we'd love to learn more about what you guys think.
Yeah. All right. Bye,
Bye, everyone.
everyone.